What is good, everybody? We got a special video actually for you guys today. We're going to be talking to Kingdom of Comics. It was a local comic book shop out of Florida that had just closed down not too long ago, going into the new year. And you guys may know we did videos on this, and they talked about during the time that they were open, they had Ice on One, obviously, and that was a top-selling graphic novel that entire time that they were open out there in Florida. So Kingdom of Comics, we're going to be talking today with them, Jason and Paula. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoy this, and it should be insightful. And of course, as I mentioned, I am joined by Jason and Paula of Kingdom of Comics. Guys, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having fun.
Awesome. Well, as I said, kind of off air, I do appreciate you guys so much for joining us. I think this is going to be incredibly insightful for the audience. And before we get into like some of the direction I want to go with kind of the experience, the entire experience, how long have you guys been in sort of this business as a retailer, or like as just really any side of the whole comic book industry? How long have you been in it, and what got you guys into it?
We've been in it for about 4.5 years.
And I mean, I've been collecting since I was a kid. Used to, back in the late 80s, early 90s, mowing lawns for money to go get comics. And
Nice.
When we had the opportunity, when our local store LCS was going out of business, we were like, shit, should we do it? And
yeah, we'd always talked about opening up one, but we didn't want to compete with our LCS.
That makes sense.
Because we always liked it. Said if there's ever an opportunity, we'll do it. And then an opportunity actually presented itself. So it's not often that you get that chance. And when it happened, we had to jump on it.
Yeah, definitely. And no regrets. One of the greatest decisions we ever made, I think. We learned a whole lot of cool shit and some bad stuff. There's ups and downs with any business, of course, but this industry has definitely been very interesting, especially the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of people it reminds me of the 90s again. I don't know if you remember what that was like.
Oh, yeah.
Earl DC.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's certainly an interesting perspective by itself, in the fact that, hey, you guys had your own local comic book shop, and then they're it's closing down, and you see, well, this is certainly a way for us to kind of slide in just into the market and see what happens. So, obviously the people probably around you guys, the folks that were your regular customers, were probably proud of you. Certainly in your everything it is that you did, but just the fact that, hey, there's still going to be a local comic book shop in our area, I'm pretty sure is something that is going to be kind of awesome. So, you guys, so it's been 4 years or so. You guys opened Kingdom of Comics out there in Florida, out there. So how was that market in itself? Let's say when you guys first started, was it like kind of a rough spot, or what did that look like?
Well, we're not the only comic book store in town, so we already had competition going into it like that. But as far as the comic market in general, it seemed to be pretty strong, I would say.
Yeah, ever since the movies started coming out, it definitely got a reinvigoration for comics. I mean, I flat out stopped reading comics in the mid-'90s because I was like, the art's getting freaking weird, the stores are getting fucking psycho, and I'm like, I'm done. And I was just a kid then, and even then I was still like, yeah, this is just too weird for me.
Yeah.
But getting back into it.
Yeah, and then I think the movie, I started getting back into it like indies and stuff like that, and my LCS guy finally got me into Marvel again a little bit, and never been huge on DC, but it is what it is.
There've been some good storylines from there.
But yeah, definitely, there was definitely a reinvigoration. I feel like for comics, I felt like the writing was kind of getting back to kind of the way it used to feel a little bit. The artwork,
it could be hit or miss,
yeah,
depending on the book.
I mean, I still remember in the 80s and 90s, almost every comic book you picked up had someone good doing the artwork, and it looked great. And now it can be so damn distracting you can't even read the book.
Man, yeah. I heard that, man. And I would certainly agree, because even during that period of time, because, even like going out to 2016 or 2015 when you had like the whole rebirth era of DC. Right. So you had them trying, and you know, those are some storylines I would talk a lot about on my channel, right, that I thoroughly enjoyed. And yeah, I can certainly see what you mean when you see that certain like art can be hit or miss. But you know, it felt like definitely going into 2020 and afterwards it was something was going on, right? And before we get into that though, can you, and I mean, I know this, I already know how this works, but just for the sake of the audience, they more than likely have no clue. So new comics are coming out. Can you explain to them just what the actual process is as a retailer, as far as getting those new comics, be it you're using Diamond? I know there was a slight switch as far as with who you were getting it from, but just lay it out there for the audience, because I think just so many people are kind of like clueless on as far as how that works.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it started off nice and easy for us.
Well, Diamond is the main distributor for comic books, and they've had a monopoly on that for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And then starting, I think it was 2019, DC decided to split.
Yeah,
or maybe it was 2020.
It was right after shutdowns.
It was 2020 after COVID, yeah.
But I mean, I felt like it was a little easier for us getting into it because we just had one distributor.
Right.
Yes.
Got to order everything from them. Retailers get a discount on your books based on how much you order.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for your average store, it's probably not hard to get around that 40-50% discount. But I mean, if you're like one of the mega stores, then you can get like
a little bit higher.
A little
That's
higher.
So crazy high, but
yeah, I mean, I think the highest it goes is like 60% or something like that.
55, I think.
Okay.
But either way, yeah, you're getting your 50% off the books. You get the wholesale. And it can be, I was watching one of your videos last night about incentives, and this is a new thing that I, getting back into comic books, knew nothing about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
and it's a bizarre thing. And it was profitable a little bit at times. So, for example, you have what's called a 1 in 10 incentive.
Mm-hmm.
You have to order 10 books of cover A or B, one of the non-incentive covers, to just get one of that 1 in 10. And it can go all the way up to 1 in 1,000. It's madness.
Wow. So was that like just,
like
that. Yeah. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, so just learning new things like that was interesting. And,
the whole switch when Diamond decided, well, I guess I should say when DC decided to pull from Diamond, and they went with 2 different distributors. They decided to do
I forget what
2 different. I know. There was Lunar and another company that they decided to go with. You had 2 different companies to choose from. Well, we went with the company that did not last, apparently. So we had to start up a new distribution with that company, who then went out of decided they were no longer going to distribute it anymore, and we ended up having to go through another one just to distribute DC books.
Oh, wow.
Which I will say that Lunar is doing a fine job distributing. They've been adding a ton of new comic companies, publishers to their list of comics that they offer.
They're adding a lot more indies to their stuff now, too, so they're almost kind of becoming like a little mini Diamond.
Yeah, they are competing with Diamond in that regard. And then Marvel decided to separate. And with Marvel separating from Diamond, they also took IDW with them, which is another smaller indie publisher.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Marvel and IDW are tied together. So we have Diamond is the main, then we have Lunar for DC, and we have Penguin Random House for Marvel and IDW. So now we have 3 different distributors we have to choose from to order comics. And that's if you don't go directly to the comic distributors themselves. Because I know Scout Comics is a tiny little publisher, but they have a lot of books out, and you can go directly to them as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot to choose from, but Diamond was the majority, the monopoly for quite a while.
I don't feel like they're the big dog anymore.
No, and I don't think they do either.
Yeah, there certainly has been some changes there, and it's been very interesting as of late. Watching that definitely after 2020, and you saw that kind of breakup, and I guess people looked at that as like an opportunity. And you know, we have these different distributors. But there was something that you, Jason, that you kind of touched on that I wanted to get kind of some more of you guys' thoughts on that, because we just got through talking about this on a stream about the whole incentive cover and incentive variant. How do you feel about that? Just your overall kind of theme on that, where that is a process of, well, they have to, or you have to buy a certain amount in order for you to get this one. And of course you can mark it up and make a little money off of, but that is something, obviously that's not anything that I'm fond of. It's not anything that I even will ever do, but how do you guys feel about just a process in general of that incentive cover? Do you think that's good for retailers? Do you find that as something that's a little, as some others find it a little more slimy? Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
So we kind of looked at the numbers when we're doing the business and stuff, and we just, so your customers may or may not know how comic subscriptions work.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a customer comes in and they say, I want to read Amazing Spider-Man, every 2 weeks that it comes out, and please put me down for every single one of these issues. So they become a subscriber for Amazing Spider-Man. Now, when you get a bunch of subscribers and you total up to, say, 25 people reading one title, if you happen to get there, or maybe you just need to order 2 or 3 more books for that issue, then maybe we'd pull the trigger and go get that 1 in 25 or something like that. We were not big fans of just for the hell of it ordering books just to get incentive, because like you talked about in your video, I do not want like 100 books just sitting in my back issues that nobody wants.
Yeah.
But would help. I guess it's kind of a hit or miss, because when it started, I felt like there wasn't as many incentives when we first started out. So this, say, Amazing Spider-Man started over and it would have, a few incentives with it. That's fine. It wasn't every single book that week coming out with incentives. Having 1 or 2 books that had incentives was okay. If it was, say, a 1 in 25, for example, the going market is to price it at, I think,
usually
around $25, because it's only 1 copy for every book you get.
Yeah,
which gave it a little bit more value.
But depending on the artist, it could be going, full. You kind of, what we would usually do is try to keep it around that $25 mark. But sometimes if it's say Alex Ross for some reason is doing an incentive, which is very rare, that's going to be worth a bit more money, and you'll see them selling for 30, 40, 50 bucks sometimes. So, I try to be competitive with it when we would get one, but overall,
other times it'd go for less and we would mark them down less. It depends on what the going market was at the time.
But when it started, they used to have sorry, my dogs are going to be playing.
I know that everybody over here knows that feel with our dogs, so no biggie.
But yeah, so you would have an incentive cover and it would be like a completely different cover.
Yeah.
And now I feel like they're just making it like the cover A, but black and white.
Yeah, slight color changes.
A virgin cover means
no title
on it. It's just
no words.
Just the artwork. And it's like, really? You're gonna make it that cheap just to change one? I mean, you already have the artwork done. You're just copying it and just taking stuff off the cover. It's like, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, and I think that's the slimy part, right? That's the part that I think some people have a lot of issues with and have, like those slight changes. And it just seems like in some cases, maybe the publishers are, trying to, it's hard to say if they're just trying to make it look like the sales are a little better than they are. But, I didn't know if that was one of those cases where these local comic shops are like, this is our way to make a little money, make a little more money. So we certainly get that. But your approach certainly makes more sense and in that it's more economically sound. And it's like, hey, if I'm already getting this many books and I get an incentive, awesome. But yeah, you don't want to do hey, I'm doing a 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, and there's no way that you're going to sell all those books of that main cover. So it's not absolutely worth it. But with that kind of, I guess, the direction, you saw a lot of the changes, and I guess we kind of how was business prior to, let's say, COVID? We'll get into that in a little bit, but how was business for you guys as far as this being profitable, as far as this being able for you guys to eat off of as a local comic book shop prior to 2020?
I'd say we're still fully in the growth phase of our business at that point, so it was still rough.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, COVID actually was good for us with the shutdown because there was no distribution bills. It all stopped. So all I had to do was pay rent. So I just took my inventory. I was doing live sales.
Oh, okay.
And I felt like I'd have rent paid in like 1 week. So it would be like not a big deal.
That
But
makes
before
sense.
that, I mean, as you said, we were just getting started and just getting a subscriber base, a customer base, and all that.
Makes sense.
And that
So,
takes a while.
yeah, of course. Yeah, you know, with anything, you know, it would take a little bit to. So you guys are in the growth phase, very much in the growth phase of those first couple of years, and then you know something like COVID sort of hits. Like, how did that impact you guys? I don't know if you guys had a relationship with like other local comic book shops. What was the scene like when you have? I know you were in Florida, we're in Texas. It was a little different as far as people moving around and moving about, but you still had the issues to worry about with the split of like the distribution and all that. What was the like overall experience that first few months, uncertainty with you guys going into like 2020, or rather when COVID hit?
As far as relationships with other stores in our area, I felt like we were very helpful to each other. You know, we would promote each other's online sales just to try to make sure we're all making money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in general, we always kind of felt like, you know, we're all in this together, you know. Each store is a little different than the other one. Like, we really focused on statues a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my favorite thing. So we have that. Another store might be big on gaming or something like that. But as far as like trying to get supplies whenever we could, like we would always share and, you know, as much as we could to each other. So that was good. Of course, customers are always very, I'm going to say like difficult, but they were, you know, concerned. They're like, well, they want my comic. They want their comic book.
Right, right.
Sorry. It's coming for a month or two, you know?
That makes sense.
I mean, I think overall, it was a little nerve-wracking at first because you wasn't sure what was going to happen, but it ended up being fine. I felt like it was easy looking back at it.
Well, I think I also think that the COVID era, the shutdown, it helped spark interest in a lot of other collectors I should say, people rediscovered interests in hobbies, and comics was a big one. After the shutdown and into, I'd say, a whole year into 2021, comics were thriving, especially, you know, older comics, Silver Age and stuff. It became a very popular, big boom.
Yeah, we had people bring in by collections to sell because I guess, you know, they're out of work and stuff, so they're just trying to get some money themselves. And I mean, some of the keys I had come across our desk during that time was pretty. I mean,
it was exciting.
Two Amazing cool. Fantasy 15.
Oh wow!
Hulk #1.
Oh wow!
Daredevil 7, some Golden Age Batman. It was like, holy shit!
It was pretty cool. I mean, it's sad that people have to sell their collections, but it's exciting to be able to see these and to put them in hands of other collectors who appreciate it.
Yeah, that's huge, and that's a certainly interesting, you know, perspective. And I guess we saw that with other things as well, where you would see kind of a growth. I know my channel, like, because people were at home a little more and they were looking more so into that. So a lot of us came up in that era as well. And it's funny seeing people kind of lean towards new hobbies, trying new things because of whatever was happening in 2020. So it's certainly good that you, it didn't, let me say this, that you guys were able to come on the other side of that. And at least, you know, be able to certainly to operate that way and being able to sell you guys' comics. And let me ask you this: is that kind of the landscape right now of in your experience, and maybe talking to other comic book shops, because you brought up a great point in like, hey, you guys are selling statues and stuff. Is that kind of where the industry's at? Because I think that's where a lot of people lean towards, that it's people are having to rely on other things that are local comic book shops that maybe aren't prioritizing simply books. Maybe they have to go into the games aspect. Maybe it's manga. Maybe it's you know, got a bunch of Pop Funko, stuff like that. I know that people kind of invested in. Has that been your experience, that it's like, look, comics, definitely modern comics itself, aren't going to do it. We have to rely on older books and other things to really make sure that our bottom line is taken care of?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'd almost say I don't think I know of a comic book store that doesn't dabble a little bit on something else, whether it's action figures
Or back issues or
Funko Pops. I hate the damn things, but yeah, they're sold. A lot of them.
and you have to provide what the community wants if at all possible.
I heard that.
Like game stores they'll go big. They might start as a comic book store, but depending on your square footage, you have to pay rent, and
yeah,
comics won't do it.
We started getting Pokemon cards because I mean
that was a huge boom.
They sell out, as soon as you get them. So it's like, why not?
Man.
Statues, manga is huge. I know you've talked about it on your channel before, how big manga is now, and it's true. Manga and the anime action figures and stuff like that, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There were certain titles, like, for a while you couldn't even order certain manga just because their distributors can't even get them in fast enough.
Yeah. Wow. So
and that definitely, I think, provide an additional income.
Yeah, we also had a little beer and wine bar inside our store, so
nice.
That was a little bit of a booster too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, and that's what I thought. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it's like that, where it's like, hey, man, modern comics aren't enough, to really, at least the demand isn't there for you to just, like you said, look, rent's got to get paid at the end of the day. So I think it's cool that these stores are kind of acting as maybe a one-stop shop for people's different types of entertainment. But just as a creative myself, it sucks that in the modern era that the comic book shop really doesn't seem to be able to thrive. Very few and far between that they're able to just like, look, we just sell what's coming out for them, like that being the vast majority of the business, and that being enough to take care of the bills. We're seeing it time and time again that people are having to find different things to get into, and I have an issue with that. You guys have probably heard me talk about that. That hopefully that turns around and people can get into it to where it's lucrative for really everybody that's involved, not just the creatives that are involved, but the local comic book shops. That is something that's been very, very important to me in my life. And I wanted to be able to, this is why I was like I made it a point, the company made it a point to, get books in you guys' hands and everybody else, all the other comic book shops that want them. I'm glad to hear that, you guys were able to actually make some dough off of that. But, get back on point, going into 2022, I know you guys made a decision a couple of months ago that, hey, you announced publicly, like, all right, we're going to unfortunately be on the other side of this, and we're no longer going to be operating. Let's say that. What led to that and that decision? I know is probably a very difficult one for you guys, but what could you point to that made that decision for you guys, as far as that, making the tough decision of closing down?
There's like a ton of factors. I mean, the political climate with the activism in comics, I think, has been a major issue. It hasn't like completely ruined our store or anything like that, but we've had, quite a few subscribers that are just like, I'm done reading Marvel and DC. I'm just going to stick with indies.
Yeah.
And it's, indies are, no matter what, they're never going to beat Marvel in comics. It's just Marvel is 60 to 70% of the market at our store, and that's just how it is. DC's been in rapid decline.
Yeah.
Frickin' Batman has always been like one of the most popular superheroes in our history, and now I barely have 10 subscribers for Batman. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's one aspect of it. I would say that also, when the price of comics are now $4.99, $5.99 each, and then you have the gas spike over the summer last year that would bring gas prices up, people have to decide, do they want to buy a gallon of gas or a comic book?
Makes sense.
And that came into play. We saw big time last summer. I think that's when it really started to show the ugly face of what the economy is doing, how activism has played into it. People are just saying, you know what, I really don't need that comic after all. And so a lot of the subscribers cut back on their subscriptions or just stopped subscribing altogether. The random walk-in people that we would get trailed off a bit. And, you have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to support a habit and a hobby, or do you want to put food on your table and everything?
Yeah, for me, like, I mean, I stopped reading Marvel maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half. I think I just finally was sick of it. I'm like kind of just done with Disney. Like, I just can't take it anymore, you know? Like, why read books for when if there's something that you don't like about it, they tell you themselves that don't read my book.
Yeah,
like,
great Kelly Sue DeConnick told you that, yeah.
And it's like, what is your? That's not how you talk to customers,
Right,
you know?
right.
No, it's like, good Lord.
Wow.
So, yeah, I kind of felt like I'm like kind of prostituting out comics for a while there.
Yeah.
I don't need to support what the hell they're about. I mean, they're not all like that.
No, definitely not. No.
But I mean, whether you even agree with some of the stuff that they're talking about, like, nobody cares what Superman thinks about abortion or gun rights or, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying he is that in comics. I'm just giving stupid examples, but nobody cares about
Right.
that.
They just want to read about him bashing Lex Luthor or,
Yeah.
you know, doing something like that.
Yeah.
But that was harder and harder to find because it's now, I have to make a point. I don't care about the character. I care about making, like, the writers would put in their message instead.
Right.
And a lot of, you know, readers were starting to see that, and I think that played a part too. Not to mention, you know, rent went up big time, so.
Yeah, and shipping costs were starting to get insane.
Yeah.
Action figures, like, there'd be times we'd order cases of action figures and we'd be making like $1 or $2,
It's
unless we mark them up. And then the big department stores like Walmart and Target, they already got these figures out like a month ago or 2 sometimes, and then we're finally getting them now. So you just feel like big time sloppy seconds, you know?
Yeah. It seems like a lot of these distributors for stuff other than comics, like action figures or Funko Pops or statues or games, they are not friendly towards the small businesses. They want to just thrive to Target or Walmart or any other big box stores that they can, GameStop and stuff like that. Whereas the little people, the people who actually supply the community and are a part of the community, it seems like we get
we
sloppy
just
seconds.
get shit on. I mean, there's one statue company that I thought was amazing. That was Sideshow.
Sideshow was great
It's
the whole time.
friggin' hard as hell to get an account with them, but I managed to get one. We're like the only dealer here on the Space Coast here that even has Sideshow statues. So that was a good thing for us, and they treated us very good. I never had any issues with them, but all the other big distributors, Entertainment Earth and Diamond themselves, it was just getting
either really delayed or the shipping was so outrageous it was not affordable and make any sense to do it anymore.
Wow. Yeah, and that's certainly insight for a lot of what we talk about in like just the economics of it all and how that impacts businesses. We talk about it in like inflation and, you know, like you talk about the gas hike and all of that, like that. Certainly people are going to make decisions. And, you know, when you are looking at it like, yeah, do I really want this? Like, of course, you're going to make the decision to I'll just take the gas. Whereas if it was a more, I guess, enthusiastic market, you'd have people make those tough decisions, but still want to, like we see with some of the other hobbies, they're going to do whatever they can to make sure they get it. But if you are even slightly more inconvenienced, less likely you are to just want to invest in something like that when you're like, look, I'm kind of just getting this book just to be getting it. And it's not even that good. Like, so, yeah, I'm going to make a decision to, you know, pay for other things as opposed to this. So it's sad that level of enthusiasm certainly isn't there. And I guess before we talk about like ISOM and stuff, is that the case? Like, had you noticed even though that 4-year period, like just enthusiasm for the newer comic books for your customer base, had that gone up, down? How was that kind of experience?
I'd say as a whole, mostly it had gone down. There were a few titles here and there for both DC and Marvel. And I feel like we're almost like in a silver age of indies. Like there's
some great indies.
I mean, it's just crazy how many of them there are out there. But as far as the big two, definitely it's been, I feel like, a little bit more of a decline than, you know.
Yeah. I'd say, well, not to cut you off, but we were talking to another comic book store owner recently, and he was also chiming in that, you know, in these past few years, there has not been any big book out there that people have been overly excited about. I mean, there's been a couple titles, like Jason said, here and there. But as a whole, there's not something week to week that will keep people coming back. It can
No.
be multiple different titles that people are excited about. Like there's The Walking Dead ended. That used to be a huge pull for a long time. Saga is over. That was a big pull for people. I mean, I guess Saga came back, but it did not come back with the gusto that people wanted it to.
Yeah. I think the increase in the Spawn universe that McFarlane's doing with Image, that has got some big traction. I know you've mentioned several times about how King Spawn was the number one, but I never heard you mention that there's a reason for that.
Oh. Yeah.
Because he had a 250 incentive that he would sign, and you could send a grading company to get a signature series grade from that. And he was like the first one to ever let CGC do a certificate for signature verification.
So did that a lot.
I personally wanted that book, so I actually paid for like 180 of those myself because I wanted it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's why. There were stores that bought like 50 of those things, so they had like
50 of those 1 and 250.
Yeah, so
they bought thousands.
They bought thousands and thousands of books, so that's the only reason why I think that one.
Yeah,
also,
that makes sense.
That's a good story, but that was also a major reason why that was so popular. But his whole, what did he call it, Year of Spawn? That was a great idea. I think that was pretty genius on his part to start. Spawn's been going for 30 years. Let's bring out finally some new titles that tie into it and are a little bit different and get people excited again. And I think it worked.
Yeah, and that's
one title that.
No, I was just saying like that was interesting because I kind of alluded to that. And like, is that a way that people are doing a lot of these incentive stuff to kind of boost sales? Even though, probably it's going to be very difficult for one local comic shop to get like, I don't know, 100 of cover A's or B's out of there. But that makes sense. And maybe that's the attraction, right? For why so many of the companies are relying on doing stuff like that, because they look at it like, well, it's going to look good for us to have sold a bunch of these, even though, realistically, had a lot of those King Spawn, because even the numbers that we look at from like the Comicrons of the world, like those are going based on like what was sold to the stores. So, who knows how many of those actually ended up in the hands of like enthusiastic customers, as far as like those ones that actually were sold to the stores.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stores were like, when you would get some of those big incentives, they were doing whole packs and giving you, they're basically for pennies, like the very cover A, because they ordered a whole bunch of them. So they're like, well, if you buy this incentive, we'll throw in cover A, B, and C with it as well, just to get rid of it and then sell those signed Farland ones for top dollar. So some of them were able to do that. A little off topic on why we had a lot of trouble doing that kind of stuff is we were not able to do any paid advertising on social media whatsoever. They kept canceling my ad account.
Oh, okay.
So I would call them up and be like, what happened? Why are you doing it? Like, why did this get canceled? I'm like, we can't tell you because it goes against our algorithm if you know how. I'm like, well, I don't want to make the same freaking mistake I'm doing again, and I want to give money so I can advertise my business.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's not works, and I'm just like, what the hell?
It's a big secret. I can't tell you, but don't do it again.
So I could trying to do advertisements for things on social media, which is the main way I think a lot of
the younger people and comic collectors right now are looking at it.
Mm-hmm. That was a freaking nightmare.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think we got. Sorry.
No, this is insightful. This is what we want. This is the whole reason why I wanted you guys on, because just to offer that insight to people, because a lot of folks don't know. I think there's that oblivious kind of approach for a lot of folks, kind of not thinking that there's anything wrong with anything going on, kind of looking at, we talked about sales and, even what you mentioned with like King Spawn, but other kind of things that are boosting a lot of these sales, be it the graphic novel sales for manga, you know what I mean, as far as how that's impacting the industry. But it's like, I hate to use the analogy, but it's like crap like is in the room, and a lot of folks are just ignoring the fact that it stinks, and we can't really come up with a solution for the industry. If we can't actually acknowledge what the actual issues are. There are some that are external that we can't control, but you've mentioned before just the content problem, and I think the lack of enthusiasm that's really not incentivizing anybody to want to just have a pull list as big as what maybe they had before. So we put out ISOM. I guess we can finally know the audience talk about ISOM, but I guess we can discuss that now. But we gave you guys plenty of those, and I want to say I really do appreciate you guys even purchasing it and having it at your stores. And of course, I'm glad that you guys were able to actually sell those all out. You guys had put out a few posts, which was very cool for you to do, and saying in your experience, what were the most selling, highest selling books. With that, and you guys had ISOM as the top selling graphic novel for you guys over that course of that 4 years of you guys being open, which was insane. That was a big to us, and it just really goes to show that maybe we're giving it a shot and people are actually responding to this. So how was that? That demand for, even though it was a brand new comic coming from a brand new company, the audience, how was that? Those guys that were trying to get that book from you guys, because if I'm not mistaken, you guys got a couple of shipments from us.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, dude, your book was the most insane thing I've ever seen in 4 years.
It was very exciting. A very busy couple days.
It was fucking nuts. Your fans are, I'm one too, obviously, but
we are dedicated.
Holy crap. It's there's that Rippaverse fan page, man. Once they got wind that I had books, that was like a freaking tidal wave, dude.
Like a wildfire.
If you had just 4 books that came out a month, I wouldn't even need Marvel to pay rent and stay
Just
open.
on that.
If you had 4 books a month that came out, it was fucking madness.
It was awesome, though. A lot of in honesty, we got a small shipment to start.
Like 20 bucks.
20 to 25.
Just to play with it and see what it was like.
Because we weren't sure. We're a small store as it is, but sure what the walk-in market was going to do. So we had it on the shelf, and we posted it on our Facebook page and our Instagram. And
2 days.
In 2 days, well, I think that's when the
20 books were gone in 2 days.
Well, no, I think that's when the Rippaverse or the Rippa fan page found our post on Facebook, and then all of them sold online within 2 days.
Wow.
So it was, I think it was even less than that. It was within 24 hours.
Yeah, but
it
then
was gone.
The badass thing after this is that I contact, I forget which year goes, Andrew that's in charge of taking orders. I can't remember who it was. I apologize.
Both Andrew and Alex probably, yeah.
Yeah, they were awesome.
You had 100 more books in my store in a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
And I was like, man, no other distributors doing that.
I know. We were like, is he gonna let us get more books? We want to help people get these books, but I know he wants to give them the books too. Is it gonna work? And then sure enough, you guys were like, sure, no problem. And that was great.
And then we got because you had tiers for stores depending on how much you bought. You
correct.
How much percent got off wholesale, and once we got to the 100 one, I felt like I was taking a risk. I'm like, shit, are these gonna allow it? But one day, 100
all
books.
of them. We had a line. We had a list that we had to start keeping before we even got your books in. We had to tell people, I'm sorry, we don't have them at the moment, but when we do get them in, we'll let you know. And they were already pre-selling at this point, and that was insane. It was fantastic because we're so happy to help people get your books in their hands since they weren't available on your site anymore. But it was
we
nuts.
We should tell them about freaking eBay.
Oh,
so,
eBay
dude,
was nuts.
I don't know if you were seeing what books were selling for on eBay. Like, they were going for like $160 to $200 a piece for cover A's.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
That was.
So, we did not.
I pulled 10 aside just as a joke to see if they would actually move, and I put them $120.
And they moved.
No, I think it was 13 of them, and one guy in Canada bought 10 of them.
That's crazy. That is nuts.
Yeah. I tried to keep them on my website just to make sure, and I had to limit orders because people were trying to order 5, 6. I'm like, nope, you can get one cover A and one cover B, and that's it.
Yeah.
we're not here to help you supply your reselling.
Right.
That's nuts. And like, just to be clear, like, obviously we're incredibly thankful. And I think that was a part that maybe even we could have did as a company a better job of, and we will for the next, like for the future, of just, really ringing that alarm for these comic book shops and saying, look, dude, we do primarily sell directly to the market, but like, this is something that, or directly to our customers, but this is something that was so important to me. You talk about like, walk-in markets and all that, but it's important to me and my upbringing. So if I ever could have helped these local comic book shops, I was going to certainly do that, just because, we know the state of the industry right now. If you guys can make a little profit off of, we gave you guys definitely, once you got to the hundreds, we gave you guys a sick deal for that. And you guys were able to sell them. I mean, definitely even for the other ones, the other comic book shops, it was like, hey, if you let us know if you're comfortable with us letting the audience know, but best believe you need to understand, as soon as we ring the alarm that, hey, you guys have them, you're going to sell them out like immediately. That was just demand. And as it continued, definitely for those first couple of covers. So I'm just enthusiastic. It wasn't about like seeing, it was a cool thing to see, make no mistake, that ISOM had done that well for you guys, but just the idea that you guys are able to make some money, you know what I mean? And that's certainly music to my ears when you hear, when I hear at least that, if we could have kept this up, you guys would have been able to make some money, you know what I mean, if we were coming out with more of these frequently. And obviously that's kind of where we want to get to when we as we grow, to make sure that we're putting out more and doing more, and we'll continue to grow into that. And I would love to be able to just give you guys books, anybody books for that matter. And again, that's just insightful to me. I had no idea that it was as crazy as it was, but I'm thankful for you guys to even, like I said, because it was a risk. Like you said, it was a risk.
It's important, I think, that anybody that listens to you on YouTube knows that you did not have to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, if you look at the sales on your website, you didn't. I mean, I don't even know if you probably kind of almost broke even on the wholesale deal, but like, you didn't have to do that. That was just a nice thing that you did for us, and we really appreciate that. That was awesome.
Because we feel the same way about comics. We want to get it into people's hands.
Yeah.
Because we want people to read it and fall in love with comics. It's the whole reason we went into business too. Is we love the industry, we love comics, we want other people to fall in love with it, and any way that we can help, we want to. So for you to be able to help us do that too was awesome.
That's again, that's what I hope to find, even more creative ways in the future to let's just take care of comic book shops in any way that I can for our company, making it lucrative for both sides. And that's what we hope to do, certainly going into the future. But with that being said, like, what are you guys' plans? With obviously, with maybe, you moved on certainly from the comic book shop. But what are the plans? Are you sticking around, going to a new industry? Like, what are the plans with you guys?
We still have a whole big storage unit filled with inventory, so I'll be selling a lot of stuff online probably over the next year.
Doing conventions.
Yeah, I'll be going to a lot of local cons and stuff like that to do some selling, and gonna travel a bit, and
go from there. After online and conventions, we'll see where.
I used to day trade futures a little bit in the past. I'd probably just go back. It's a little more stressful than comic books, but
definitely in this day.
Man.
Well, that's cool. It's good that, obviously we would love to keep you guys around as contacts. And if you guys have anything that you're doing in books, we'd love to see kind of what we could do to assist you guys. Because like I said, you guys were, we were glad to get you that second shipment. And if there's ways that, we can even rekindle that, if you guys, gauge the market these next couple of years and you're like, hey, we want to give it another shot or whatever, you make sure you guys stay in contact with us. And we would love to certainly help you guys in whatever way that we can. Again, I don't like to hear that a local comic book shop is closing down, but I am still thankful for you guys and what you guys were able to do for ISOM ISOM One. So you'll be sharing that, and if you need to give me links like after the call, I'll make sure that we get those posted if there's a place where people can. And do you already have that up? Is there a place that they can get the actual like your back orders and all that that you guys have, or back issue, excuse me?
I don't have that up and ready just yet.
Okay.
Take a bit of the freezer after the move, but
So I think we'll try to do, we'll post stuff on our Facebook and Instagram when we get started.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
And then we'll see where we go from there.
We'll look out for that, and we'll push that out. And like I said, hopefully you guys can do that. And who knows, man, things change with this market, and who knows if there's some opportunities there. Man, I would love to see you guys give it another shot. And hopefully there is kind of a new awakening for this industry that we all love, and that the American comic book industry, and hopefully we can get back to a point to where everybody's making a little money, especially these local comic book shops. I guess the last thing that I want to ask you guys is perhaps the most important for some of you, for some viewers. For understanding your experience, highs, lows, mistakes, get the successes, all that, is there any advice that you would offer for people that are kind of entering into the industry as a potential retailer? I know it's a very volatile time right now, risky time to even consider something like that. Is there advice that you guys would offer considering your experience?
It would definitely be like we talked about earlier, look into something else to have on the side, whether it's toys, some kind of gaming thing, have some other kind of booster there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people come into shops to look for not just comic books, but toys and gaming and stuff. Definitely really focus, at least in the beginning, on subscribers. Build your subscriber base. That is the backbone of every comic book store.
Yes.
I mean, people always ask me, what do you make the most money on? No matter what you're selling in the store, it's almost always still going to be comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Subscribers are the lifeblood.
Yeah.
So for anybody out there who's listening, who is a comic person, who goes to comic book stores, please let your local LCS know that if you don't want a title on your pull anymore, ask them to take it off and give them time to take it off. Because I don't think what a lot of people know is that a comic book store has to order 2 months in advance before the book is released. So if a book is released in March, you are ordering it in January. So if you don't want something, give your LCS a notice and then let them have the time to take it off their pull. Don't just walk out on them, because every single thing that's in that store, they have paid for.
Yeah.
And I don't want people just abandoning their pulls or saying, oh, I don't like this, I don't want it anymore. Just understand that we're human too, and we have bills to pay, and you actually do turn the lights on and off for us and put food on our table.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you decide to buy or not buy does affect us, and we appreciate every single thing that you do.
And the more active customers are in their own comics subscriptions and their own reading, like the better we can help them get what they want.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly
And,
insightful.
I'm sorry, for all, one other thing I was thinking about for when a new person is ordering comics, like a new LCS is going to order comics, number ones always sell the best.
Mm-hmm.
Number twos don't sell well. Number threes do not sell anywhere near number twos. And by the time you get to number 4, it's really trailing off. So just prepare that when you go into order.
Man, that's risky. I should have asked about that earlier. Like the whole, it's funny. I remember we had our little pre-order campaign, and it ran for basically the same amount of time that you guys would order from like a diamond as far as getting you guys' books. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. It's like these guys are ordering, and maybe it's by request or whatever it is, but these guys are ordering. You need to understand, a couple of months in advance anyway. So a lot of what you see even in the independent scene, you're already seeing that it may be a little more streamlined, but that same thing has been happening in comics for a long time. And that it's not like you're ordering and getting them immediately. A lot of those, definitely with the big two, those are like 2 months, sometimes 3 months out.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
And like you said before, they delay things whenever they damn well please.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny.
And if you're going to move,
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, you get a lot more scrutiny when you are like a up and comer. It's kind of like that, and they will like. I mean, they have a magnifying glass on everything it is that you do, and it's like, man, if you only knew. And I think that's why I wanted to kind of have this conversation with you guys, because that insight is just a lot of people don't have it. Even regular comic book readers don't really have that and understand like what happens when you have a actual comic book business as acting as a retailer. But yeah, again, I know this went way longer than what I initially anticipated that it was going. No, this is not. No, this isn't on you guys. This is what I want. I'm glad you guys didn't have, or you had enough time to kind of chat with myself. And again, this is going to be incredibly insightful to the audience. Before we get out of here, is there anything kind of last thoughts or anything that you would love for the audience to be kind of in on? I mean, just plug away.
Well, I wanted to say, like, all the people that come after you and stuff, like, to say you're not legit and stuff. Like, me and Paula and I, we knew when you said you were starting Rippaverse and you were describing how it's the hardest thing you've ever done with all the permits and all this stuff. I'm like,
Jesus.
Yeah, he's doing it. I know exactly what he's doing, because opening the business was the hardest thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you what you need to do. You have to you're calling the state, the county, the city for all kinds of crap that you need. And like, we could tell right away when you were briefly describing some of this, we're like, yeah, he's really doing it.
He's ugly. So I was thinking about it. It's like behind the curtain. Is what goes on behind the curtain is, I feel like on our side as a comic book retailer, we've kind of revealed a little bit behind the curtain today. Mm-hmm. And you as a creator have revealed what's going on a little bit behind the curtain for you. And well, we've watched a lot of artists and creators come into our store and what they've had to go through as well, just to be in the business and how hard that is. And people definitely don't realize what goes on behind the scenes just to put those books in your hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we've been at our store, we were always very huge supporters of local artists, local writers,
talent whenever we could find it.
Yeah, and when they'd come in for signings or whatever, we'd always support them. Some of whom we became friends with, and we'd buy a shit ton of books just to make sure they're supported and stuff. And,
but it's not easy. It's hard.
Yeah, it's great. Like, there's one gentleman, he has a big book like yours. It's like 90-something pages, and his was the same price as yours, printed right here in America. So I'm like, I don't know what people are complaining about. If you're going to get high-quality print,
yeah,
it's going to be a big book like that, that's how much it's going to freaking cost.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the fact of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a Marvel book that can print out 5 issues for $10.
Right.
I don't know how they print a novel like that, but it's not feasible for anybody else.
True. It's very difficult, and it was such a process in getting all that. We're dealing with printers, and like you said, even like with our warehouse, and that would be where you guys know, just getting a certificate of occupancy, you could be waiting forever to even get stuff like that. It's insane. Yeah. And as if I needed a new reason to despise government. This process, even with our new warehouse and just being able to do construction on properties that we own, is insane. But yeah, that's the type of stuff that you have to go through as a business owner.
It's very true. I mean, nobody realizes that until they have to go through it themselves.
Yep.
And I think that's what the majority of the public doesn't have to do that. So what you reveal, I hope people are taking it to heart and realizing how much work and effort that you have put into this as well.
It has been a lifelong dream, for sure.
I think that's pretty awesome that you've been able to touch on your dream. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's a good story. I'm
we're loving
excited.
it.
Those two characters that you introduced at the very end of the book there that were like singing in the band that came out, like, I was like, oh man, this has got, like, who the hell are these guys? This looks really cool.
Yeah, that the audience has made it abundantly clear that we have to do something with them, and I'm going to for sure. I'm already kind of in the works of some stuff that we're going to do with that. So, it's exciting, and I'm just glad people got something from the book. And that was what it was all about, right? It was of course getting it in their hands, but also the fact that people are just actually enjoying it and are already stoked for ISOM 2 and everything. It means the absolute world to me. And like I said, it just and it still applies, no matter where you guys are at or what you guys are doing, even if you're doing an online thing, just keep in contact with us. I would love to see what we can work out, because I want to. You guys were very good to us, and I would love to maintain certainly that relationship. And same goes for all the other, they know as well, the other local comic book shops that invested in this, and they did really well for themselves. Well, again, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. You guys are awesome. Kingdom of Comics. I mean, I hate to hear something like that you guys are kind of having to go away from it, but the fact that you guys were able to do it in the first place, I think is meaningful for the people that are in those geographical areas, or that you're in over there in Florida. But hopefully, with whatever happens, you guys can rekindle that and maybe give it a shot, or at least know kind of where the money's going to be. But of course, we'd love to have you still in the industry and in comics.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. Thanks for this opportunity to talk to you as well.
Of course. Appreciate it. Again, guys, Kingdom of Comics, we'll make sure that we have all of the links available to you all as soon as they have their new store online and all that, and being able to get those back issues to you. So again, appreciate you guys. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.